This Week in Connecticut with Dennis House starts now.
Welcome to This Week in Connecticut. Greetings, everyone. I'm Dennis House. Straight ahead today, the legislative session is over. So how will all the new laws impact you? DiPentima of the CBIA has some answers. Also, a new beginning for once troubled city mayor Dorinda Borer talks about getting West Haven out of financial messes so bad the state had to take over. And what is the outlook for veterans? We will chat with retired U.S. Army Colonel Mike Cabry. And summer is almost here and bear season's underway, so which town has the most bear sightings so far? First up, the lead. The 2023 legislative session has come to an end with all sorts of changes coming our way. The Connecticut Business and Industry Association is sharing its take on what happened. And with me now is the president and CEO of CBIA. He is Chris DiPentima. Chris, good to see you here on the program.
Thanks for having me back on.
Of course. Well, let's talk about the session and, in your judgment, the good and the bad.
Sure.
Let's start with the
good. The good, there were some real transformative changes around the regulatory processes in Connecticut that I think is going to help with commercial development, it's going to help more business development. A big one was getting rid of the old regulation we had for moving contaminated commercial properties, which was very, very challenging in Connecticut. And that's estimated to create $4 billion to help grow the Connecticut economy and also create over 2,000 construction jobs. So the regulatory reforms were no doubt the biggest wins this session.
And what about the things that you don't think are helpful to you?
Yeah, well, they passed unemployment for striking workers. The governor has pledged to veto that bill. That's been a real concern. It's the second year in a row they've raised some type of benefit for striking workers. That really tips the scales of balance that we have in Connecticut with the employer-employee. And now the unemployment fund would pay for striking benefits, and that's solely funded by the employer. So the employer is basically paying for people to go out on strike against the employer, which doesn't make sense at all.
There were a lot of employers who were against that. And what did they specifically say to you about stopping that?
It just sends a bad signal to the business community, a bad message overall. Even if you aren't an organized labor union employer, it's just a message of, okay, what else are we going to pass in Connecticut that makes it unfriendly to do business, and it's going to chase jobs and businesses out of the state.
What will the impact of this session and what was passed have on our economy, in your opinion?
Yeah, there were some significant things in the budget. There were some real workarounds around the spending cap, which is something the business and the residents, I think, of Connecticut think of as critical, making sure government spending stays in check. Government spending is going to increase $2.6 billion over the next 2 years, and above and beyond the spending cap. We're going to divert $1.2 billion that would have gone and paid down our pensions, which would have saved Connecticut about $100 million budget after that. And we're going to move that money to additional programs and additional spending. So that sends a message that, hey, we're really bending these guardrails. We're increasing spending. We've got some business tax hikes in the budget as well. What does that mean 2 years down the road, the next budget cycle? Are we going to ignore the guardrails altogether, or are we going to start to embrace them because they've really generated significant budget surpluses and investments for Connecticut?
Last time we had you on, we talked about tariffs, the impact on the Connecticut economy. Has that changed at all since our last conversation? Or?
Just the fact that the tariffs change daily.
Well, they do change.
Yeah, the uncertainty of the tariffs. The business community is still trying to figure out how to brace for them, how to navigate. Our estimates were the tariffs would increase the cost to Connecticut about $3.2 billion. That changes as the tariff amounts change on a daily and weekly basis. The business community is starting to see some costs work its way through the supply chain, but it's still very much the beginning stages of the supply chain and hasn't worked all the way through.
I want to talk about Europe a little bit because, of course, next week is the big Paris Air Show. I know the governor goes and some other state officials looking to try to get some companies, perhaps, to open up shop here. Do they, looking back on it, is that a successful mission usually?
I think it's always important that the governor's at the air show. Aerospace manufacturing is one of our biggest sectors in the state. I attended the air show both in Paris and in London for 20 years. It's where a lot of business takes place. A lot of wooing from other states happens at that air show. Come relocate to our state, come expand to our state, and not having the leader of your state there doesn't send a great message about trying to defend your turf or attract more companies to Connecticut. So I think it's great that Governor Lamont's going and bringing contingency with him to try to draw more companies in Connecticut and keep those that we have.
What kind of foreign investment do we have in our state? From which countries?
Oh, quite a bit. I mean, we export a lot to Germany. We have a lot of German, American headquartered companies in Connecticut, and that's really our big trade partner. Canada and Mexico are big trading partners as well. And we've recently got a lot of investment from the UK, especially in the Hartford area around insurtech and fintech. And so the European nation as a whole, as well as the UK, has been a big investor in Connecticut. We have very similar cost competitiveness, and we really compete on our workforce, and so there's similarities there.
You know, you're a business guy, so you see potential in a lot of places. And this past week, the mayor of Hartford, Aruna Arulampalum, announced a new program, new task force to tackle vacant lots, which, of course, as you know, as you walk through downtown Hartford, I mean, it looks full in this picture here, but there are a lot of parking lots that used to be buildings and proposed things. What kind of things would you like to see?
Yeah, I think the investment in the gray fields, which is the parking lots that they're talking about, and or some abandoned buildings, the cost to maybe tear them down and build up new buildings is important. In some of the bills that came out this session, there's more incentives to convert commercial property to residential property, which often brings a big cost with it. So the state having some skin in that game and helping the developers convert those properties. Those are two really critical things that we need to see continue to happen in Connecticut. We got some good news that the federal courthouse in Hartford is probably going to be reconstructed on an abandoned parking lot over by Allen Street. So that's great if we can convert that parking lot to a new federal courthouse over the next couple of years.
What is because that's about almost a $500 million project, $355 million, I believe I was reading. And what kind of economic impact does that have?
Oh, it's huge. Not only does it create the construction jobs and also draw people to the city, but it's the ripple effect that it has, beyond those jobs. Those people spend locally. They buy lunch or breakfast locally. They use their dry cleaning locally. They shop at the retail stores locally. So to have those people in office in a new building is going to be really big. And that's why we've been really pushing to get more businesses to have people come back into the office, and the state employees as well. Not having the state employees in the office creates that big void in Hartford especially.
Yeah, so when you talk to the governor about that, what does he say? Can you bring these people back? Because I know a lot of people would love to see, most people don't get the option of working at home 3 days a week.
Yeah, 20, 30,000 state employees only come in the office 1 day a week, leaves a big hole in the local economy. The governor gets a lot of pushback from organized labor. Collective bargaining comes due in 2027, as well as the extension of the fiscal guardrails, and hopefully there could be some grand bargain where we bring labor back. And again, it's not just because we want to see these people in the office, it's the economic impact they have in their local communities.
And here in News 8, we've done many stories on the potential of more international travel out of Bradley Airport. What do business leaders tell you? What would they like to see for a destination?
Yeah, there was a big push this year for a flight out of Bradley to London. There's a lot of business travel that happens in London. We just talked about the UK foreign investment, and it isn't a competitor to the Aer Lingus flight. It's complementary to that flight. It didn't get into the budget or the bonding bill, but we are hearing that there may be a state investment in a direct flight from Bradley to London, I think, which would be really good, as well as continuing to grow TWE down here in New Haven. To have both those opportunities, it makes it easier for people to come in and out of our state, business travel and pleasure travel.
A lot of options. All right, DiPentima from CBIA, we appreciate you being with us today.
Always great to be with you.
When we come back, fixing a Connecticut city, veterans and bears.